for joining me for my first mid-month wrap-up. Now, this month, so far, I have attempted 4 books, and I've actually finished 3 of them. And the first one I finished this month was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. But like I said in my 2018 Reading Goals video, I plan to do individual video reviews for each of the books as I finish them. So look forward to that video at some point in the near future. Next is the book that I didn't finish, and that is The 12 Lives of Samuel Hawley by Hannah Tinty. Now, this is a book that has very high reviews on Goodreads, and it has a very intriguing synopsis, but I just didn't get it, and it wasn't interesting me. Now, I'm going to tell you what I did like. First off, I enjoyed the design of the book, and in the synopsis it tells you that Samuel Hawley has 12 scars on his body, and each one of those scars corresponds to a different bullet hole. And if you look on the dust jacket, you can see all of the different holes, and they're on the front and the back cover, and it equals out to 12. And so I thought that was an interesting little thing to kind of include in the design of the book. And also, if you're like me and you sneak a peek under the dust jacket from when you get the book from your library, there's also a zodiac map, I think that's what it's called, and that also correlates to the story as well. And so I thought that was very interesting to kind of include both of those elements on the outside as well as the inside. I also enjoyed the fact that the book is told from the present and the past, and the past chapters are each a story about how Sam got the bullet. So the first chapter from the past is Bullet 1, and it tells you how he got the first bullet. And so I thought that was interesting. That was a neat little thing to do within the book. But after that, I gotta say, to me, the writing was mediocre and the characters were bland. I just wasn't interested. I found myself kind of forcing myself to read, and after a while, that just wasn't good enough, and so I DNF'd at page 163. One of the things that I didn't like was the passage of time in the present chapters is very abrupt. In one chapter, a couple of months have passed. In the next chapter, 4 years have gone by. So you start the book with Lou at around 12 years old, and by the time you finish, she's 16. And it was just too abrupt for me. I didn't like that aspect of the book. Also, you've got Sam, who is basically this career criminal, and yet I can't see that he was very good at it. He's got 12 bullet holes. I probably would have stopped a little sooner, and I think he should have stopped a little sooner. Probably at bullet 3, maybe bullet 2. I don't know. I don't think he was very good at his career, so I'm not sure why it went on so long. I mean, obviously, if he didn't have anything else to fall back on, I can understand that, but I didn't jive well with that aspect of the book, I guess. And then you had Lou, who had very kind of erratic behavior, I guess. You know, there was one point in the book where she was younger and she did something, and I kind of understood it because she was being bullied. But then her behavior kept going, and when the book jumped forward years and she was now 16, and she was still doing the same things and had the same behavior as she did when she was 12. So there wasn't any growth. There was no development for her. And then the adults around her kind of helped her by, you know, covering up her bad behavior. And, you know, when she did suffer consequences, they were a bit self-serving for the adults. So it didn't really make sense to me that you had these two characters who were doing all these different things, and there really didn't seem to be too many consequences. So, like I said, I just ended up getting bored, and I stopped reading at page 163. I did do a little skimming ahead, so I know how the story ends in a sense, but this is not one I would recommend. And then one of the other books that I read or finished first was The Valiant by Leslie Livingston. And this one was a decent book. I ended up giving it 3 stars. I enjoyed it. The characters were good, and if you don't remember, follows Fallon, who is a Celtic princess, and on her 17th birthday, she is captured by slave traders. And so the premise seemed interesting, and it shows you that there's female gladiators, so I was very, like, gung-ho for this book. But I felt like the author played it a little too safe. One of the main themes in this book is slavery. And these are some of the most well-treated slaves that I have ever read or seen. And it wasn't believable to me. And while to a certain extent, Fallon's treatment was explained later in the book, there was another slave girl who ended up having to, I will just say, save herself. And while I was rooting and like excited, it wasn't believable, because we all know if that was real slavery and she had done what she needed to save herself, there still would have been repercussions. There still would have been some consequences to what she did. And the slave trader ended up paying her consequences. And so that just wasn't believable. And I understand that you want to keep a book, you know, on the calmer side. You don't want to go so brutal. But if you're going to have a slave theme, you kind of got to go with it, because otherwise it's just not believable. Also, there was a bit of insta-love, which again, I don't like. I thought it was too quick for the characters to have feelings and all of that, especially after what happened to the previous love interest. It just wasn't okay with me. Also, there was a point where once Fallon and her other fellow slaves are kind of settled in, there's sort of this plot, and once it's discovered, like, the who and the why, it was just kind of like, oh, okay, well, I mean, I guess that's believable, but that's it. And so that was kind of my whole thought throughout the book, was that's it? Like, that's it? And there were some really good action parts and some really kind of, you know, parts that made me go, oh. But other than that, I thought it was a little too safe for a book about female gladiators who are slaves. Also, there's a sequel to this book, and I'm not really sure why. I don't feel the need to continue the series. I don't feel the need to continue in this world. I am all for female gladiators. I think that's a pretty cool concept. I don't know. Again, it was a little lackluster for me, so I don't feel the need to continue with it. And the last book is Lemons by Melissa Savage, and this one follows a girl named Lemonade, or Lim, who has recently lost her mother, and she has to go and stay with her grandfather Charlie, whom she has never met. And so this one was another one that was highly rated on Goodreads, and from the few people that I have seen talk about it here on BookTube, they have really enjoyed it. So I was a little disappointed when after the first couple of chapters I was just like, okay, well, it's good, but I'm not seeing where it's great. But then I got to chapter 14, and the dialogue that the author uses to express Lim's feelings of grief was so like on point and powerful that I was like instantly hooked, and I couldn't wait to finish the book, even though I was sad that it was ending. And I know chapter 14 seems like a long way into the book to continue to read if you're not really loving it, but chapter 14 in this particular book starts on page, let's see, 72. And so the chapters are short, so it's not that far into the book, which is why I was able to continue to read. And I'm telling you, the way that the author handles the topics or the themes of loss and grief and mourning are just so on point. And I think this book is perfect, not just for middle grade readers, but for everybody, because I think everybody can benefit from this. I loved how great the communication was. And if you know me, if you've watched any of my previous videos, you know how much I stress good communication in books. And this one was perfect because Charlie and Lim and even her friend Tobin and his mom Debbie, they all talked about their grief. They all talked about their loss. They all talked and they shared their feelings and they shared their pain and their frustrations. And even when there was a point in the book where Lim was a little bit jealous, and she shared that with Charlie, and Charlie, you know, shared his emotions and his thoughts and his feelings with her. And I loved that about this book. It encouraged us to talk about what's going on, not keep it bottled up inside, but to talk about it. And that was very encouraging, especially when you consider that the target audience is younger readers. I thought that was very good to see in a book. I also loved just how much the adults sort of respected the children, because here it is, you know, a lot of times we as adults, we try to hide or we try to keep certain things from children, when sometimes the things that we're trying to hide or keep from them are the very things that we need to share. And so I loved how open Charlie was with Lim about his role in the demise of his relationship with his daughter, who is Lim's mother. And I liked how open he was about, you know, saying, hey, your mother had a role also to play in the demise of our relationship. And so I loved this open dialogue, this ability to be able to say, that's not fair, or I'm not okay. And it wasn't seen as taboo, it wasn't seen as wrong, it was encouraged. So I really enjoyed this book. I would highly recommend it. Even though it does deal with some heavier topics, there's also this light, fun vibe that you get because they are hunting for Bigfoot. And I thought that was like the perfect little extra, or the perfect addition to a story that is a little bit heavier. And I'm telling you, if you haven't started reading middle grade, or if you think you're too old for middle grade, trust me, start now, because this is the perfect example. Like, this was written for middle grade readers, but I would fight a child to get this book because it is that good. And so many middle grade books are of such high quality that you don't even know that they're for middle grade readers, because the artwork is amazing, the storylines and the dialogue are perfect. So if you're not into middle grade, trust me, start trying out some books. You will not be disappointed. But that's it. I'm going to get off of my soapbox. That's it for what I've read so far this month. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on some of these books, without spoilers, obviously. Just for those who may not have read the books already, especially if you've read The 12 Lives of Samuel Hawley. Let me know what you thought about it, because I'm still not understanding why it has such high reviews. But thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, God bless. Bye.